Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to be making a Stampin' Up card. I've got these fab stamps which I think is going to make a great guy's card, so let's get stamping. So I'm starting off with this pre-scored card that I've got in white that is 7 inches square, and we're going to work first on the inside of the card by adding this layer of blue Marina Mist card, which is the same size, so 7 inches by 7 inches, and I'm just sticking that down using my tape pen. I then had a piece of the Very Vanilla cut to 1 inch by 7 inches, which I just stuck across the centre there to add a little interest when I stamp my sentiment. So for that sentiment I'm using the stamp set Celebrate Today, and I'm stamping the Celebrate here using Marina Mist ink, so that matches beautifully with the cardstock. And then I'm taking the little flag banners stamps and just putting one on each corner there, just angling it so it looks like the little banners are coming off each side there, and I think that looks really effective. So now to the front of the card. As on the inside, I am covering the front completely with a piece of Marina Mist cut at 7 inches by 7 inches, and then I'm taking a piece of this gorgeous Very Vanilla cardstock which I have cut down just 1/4 inch, and before I stick it down I want to add a background to it, so I'm using this world map stamp and Tip Top Taupe ink, and I'm just inking up my stamp fully, and then we're going to stamp across the whole of this piece of cardstock. Now the stamp won't cover the cardstock in one, so we're not going to worry about that because the centre part of the card piece here is going to be covered with, or well, actually sort of parts of it, not entirely the centre, is going to be covered with other pieces of cards, so it doesn't really matter. And also the stamp is so detailed, when it overlaps and kind of crosses over, etc., you really don't notice it too much, especially when you've got other pieces on the top of it. It kind of covers it and disguises it. Even the pieces that kind of are visible, you don't see it in the same way. The other little trick that I do is I don't put it absolutely perfectly here. You'll see that I've dropped that stamp down so that you don't get like a straight line that goes from left to right completely. It just helps break it up a little bit, and there it is, all stamped, and you can see where it has overlapped, but because of the detail of the stamp and where I'm going to add those other elements, it really isn't going to matter. So the next thing I'm going to do is the next bit of stamping, and that is my sentiment. So I've got some of the Whisper White cardstock here, and I've got a Happy Birthday stamp, sentiment stamp, which is on a block. I don't know why it comes on a block only, but this particular one does. So I'm just going to stamp that. It's a nice large sentiment using the Marina Mist, and I've cut this piece of white card to 4 inches by 3 inches. Next I have another piece of the Whisper White cardstock, and I'm going to stamp on this the Main Event, which is from the stamp set Sky is the Limit, but I'm also going to be using a background wash of this watercolour wash and soft sky ink. I decided to stamp off first, so I'm going to stamp off onto my stamp pad here, and what this does is it softens the intensity of the colour, so you get quite a different look, and it's quite effective. And then if you do go over a second time, you might get sort of some parts that are darker and some that are lighter. So I've just stamped over there, and you can see that that's come out really nice. You can see the difference in the colour. However, I decided that there were some areas that I wanted to, those white areas, so I wanted to stamp again over those, and I didn't re-ink. This is just putting some very light ink into those areas without adding too much darkness. Now I decided that there were still some areas that needed a little bit more work, so I added some more of the soft sky to my stamp. I stamped off twice this time so that I really removed a lot of the ink because I really wanted a soft look. I just didn't want the white showing. I wanted it, well, I didn't mind the white showing, but I wanted it to be interspersed with the wash of the stamp. So I've done that a few times, and now I'm taking the Whisper White ink pad. This is a great ink pad. It's a pigment pad, which so it completely covers over other colours, and what you can see I'm doing is I'm adding with a brush just some little blobs. Basically, there's nothing really very artistic about how I'm doing this, and these are basically just meant to be kind of representations of clouds. So I've just put a number of those on, and then to add a little bit more realism and also just to give them a bit more emphasis, I used some of the basic grey ink pad, and I just added a little of the grey to the bottom of my cloud just to give it a little bit more of a stormy feel, but also it just makes those clouds stand out a little bit more. The next element I want to add to my picture here is the actual plane, and for that I am using Marina Mist, and I've just inked it up in its entirety, and I am stamping it onto my sky background, and I think that is a gorgeous stamp. I'm now taking the basic grey ink pad, and I'm taking my brush, and I'm just putting some of that ink on the centre part of the plane and onto the wheels, and then I'm re-stamping over the plane just to add some of the grey to those elements. Now it's a bit of a risk because it could have gone horribly wrong in that I could have not stamped in the right place, but luckily I got it correct. And then the final element on my picture is some little puff smoky bits that are on the stamp as well, which I just stamped in the basic grey, and there is our finished image looking really cool. So next I am just sticking these down onto their Marina Mist mats that I cut. Those are a 1/4 inch bigger than the sizes that I gave you for the Whisper White. By the way, the Whisper White for the plain, if I didn't say, is 5 inches square, so the mat would be 5 1/4 inches square. So just sticking those down, and then the final layer to stick down is on the, sort of as a mat, is the background that we created using that lovely map stamp, and I'm just sticking that to the front of the card, and again that was a 1/4 inch down, so 6 3/4 inch square. So then I am fiddling around with the positioning of these two elements, and I decided that my sentiment mat was just too long. It just wasn't working, so I pulled it off, as you do. I mean, I suppose I could have just re-stamped it, but to be honest it worked fine, so I just grabbed it off, took a chunk off, and it ended up at 4 inches by 3 inches. So the measurements that I gave you before was the final measurements, not the original ones. So just chopped that so that it just sat a little bit better with the other piece, because I just wanted it to overlap like this, but when it was longer it was kind of just jutting underneath too much. So once I sorted out the position and I was happy, I'm putting some foam tape on the back of my image piece, and I am going to add some tape pen to my sentiments. So what this will do is stick down the sentiment flat and my image slightly raised, so it allows me to easily put my sentiment underneath the other piece. Now, in order to ensure that both pieces were where I wanted them to be, rather than put one piece on then the other, I put them on together, and there it is, all stuck down. Isn't it cute? So then just some final little touches. I've got here a paper clip. I know it really has nothing to do with planes, but it's kind of metal and sort of, I don't know, grungy, which seemed to suit the card, so I just popped that down in the corner. And I've got this other sort of circular clip which I'm going to pop down on the image layer. What happened though is that there is a piece of foam in the way, so I've just lifted that corner and I'm just pulling that piece of foam away, and then I am popping it over to the side so it's just holding that side piece down. I'm adding my sort of paper clip, I keep calling it, and then finally once that's on, I'm grabbing another little piece of foam off the roll and I'm popping that underneath. That's then sticking to the back of the clip, so that's holding both the clip in place and also the corner of my image there. So then another little touch I've got here is this cutest little button, which is a baby little cloud. Now originally I was going to stick it down with some foam, but I realised that that would just pop it up far too high, so I used some of my amazing cosmic shimmer that you know I all adore, and I just use that to stick it down, and it will hold that really firmly. And that is our card all done, and I think that's a really nice card for a guy, and I hope you do too. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.